Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic day. Well, guess what? Today is Smart CEO Thursday, and I have a little something for you. I am Kyra Rénel Hardwick, the founder of the Kyra Company and the Smart CEO community. And listen, family of brands. Okay. So this is where we finally are. We have the Smart CEO platform that is chock full of learn and grow opportunities for our leaders. But then also, we've really been intentional about making sure that we're driving some very specific messaging to the community of leaders that we serve. And so we have the pleasure of making our monthly deposits by way of an article. And you'll find this whether you're on our mailing list or in our LinkedIn family. And I wanted to have a little lunch and learn a little bit with you today. So hopefully you grabbed your lunch. This is the time. I've got 15 amazing minutes to give you something that I think that's going to really be beneficial. Our most current article, if you are following our LinkedIn platform, and so thank you to the over 10,000 connections that we have on LinkedIn and the followers that have joined forces with us to help spread the word, do great work, and learn more about how we can become better leaders, more efficient business owners, and beyond that, that's just better people in general. All right, so let's talk about it. So this article specifically focuses on the fact that, listen, clarity without capacity will still burn you out. What does that mean? You're like, finally, I have clarity, and now there's a risk. Well, it's like knowing that there's a mountain in front of you. So all the time you are working or walking. Okay, let me give you an example. Have you ever been just kind of on a trek, walking in your neighborhood or walking in, on a hike? And you didn't know when the next hill was coming. So getting clarity on your journey is great, but then knowing that there's a hill 10 feet ahead or there's a hill 100 steps away, it creates another level of urgency or for some a little anxiety because you're like, wait, am I really prepared for this hill? Well, let me give you a little something. Last week, I took a trek and I was in Sedona. And so this was my first time climbing an actual vortex. And so I was going into this vortex and I was going into this mountain on this mountain path. And as I was walking, a couple of things were happening. I was noticing myself, my pace, my steps, and I was with someone. So my companion was walking at a pretty steady pace and accommodating my short legs and my short steps, right? But what I noticed after we took, maybe 100 steps, maybe 150, maybe 200, is that my breath was really labored. And in that moment, I thought to myself, there's no way that I can make it up this hill or up this mountain at this pace because my breath is super labored. What am I going to do? So I stopped in that moment. I communicated. I said, I need to regulate my breath. And what we started discussing was, hey, have you taken into account that you were at a different altitude? And in that moment, that hit me on so many levels, right? Your breath, your air, your approach to breathing, your approach to capacity building on the next level is different, right? Is that an aha moment for you as well? Something we know, but in the moment when we get it, like when we really need it, it becomes this really big amplified understanding that at this altitude, my breath has to change, my breathing, my sequence, my pace has to change because my body needs to be regulated. Okay, we'll deal with that. But what I had was clarity of what was ahead of me. I didn't know all the steps. I didn't understand the levels of terrain and the challenges. But what I did understand is that I could see the top and I understood where we were headed. Now, did I understand what it was going to take for me to get there? Not really. And so, because I wasn't physically prepared and locked into the changes, I had to pause and adjust. So, think about that. Clarity without capacity will still burn you out. If I had not been sensitive enough to the pace of my breath, right? Because I'm just excited and I want to do this thing. Um, I wouldn't have made it as far as I did. But because we paused, we stopped, we slowed down, I then had an opportunity to reset and to think about the journey ahead and to reset my pace and to get clearer on how I wanted to approach what was in front of me. That's where the joy became, or the clarity became, a bundle of joy because I'm like, hey, all right, now I'm ready for this. So now when the next step comes or the most uncertain step comes or the slope is a little slippery, I can use my energy and focus on how I'm going to maneuver that step versus how I'm going to breathe. Okay. That's like the bulk of it. I want you to catch that, get it, put it in your pocket, hold on to it for later, think about it in a moment, catch it on your car ride home. But that's the bulk of this conversation. So let's talk about what's in the article though. And so I really want to dig into the idea that there are some steps. First one, which I just talked about in that illustration about, climbing up a mountain, in this case, a vortex in Sedona, it's about recognition, right? Recognition is only the first step. I have the clarity, it's powerful, I'm empowered by it. But this is where I actually had to stop and take a look and say something's not working. Even though I understand what's ahead of me, I need a better system. I need a better process, right? So recognition without the follow through of actually finding and creating a new system was only going to create more pressure for myself and my companion that I'm moving through this journey with. So how do I create a better system for my team? Let's now make this a very centric workspace. How do I create more systems for my team? Well, I can stop and identify the challenge that I'm having by way of the moment with my team. Maybe I get with my systems person or my project manager and say, hey, listen, this is what's in front of us. Here's the opportunity. Let's define our plan a little more succinctly so we don't have the pressure of trying to respond to the opportunities in front of us without a real plan or without being in sync on the plan. One of the things we did earlier or end of last year, my team and I, is when I recognized certain projects were coming into our portfolio, I wanted us to stop and just kind of do an old school spreadsheet. Like, let's stop for a second and let's cross-reference dates and tasks and objectives, because we're a team of six. Our team of six, everyone does a little bit of everything. So how do we make sure that we don't lose our capacity by way of responding to the opportunities? Well, let's stop and assess. And so we stopped and we assessed and we looked at this now spreadsheet, right? We didn't put it into the project plan, to execute on. We said, let's pause and look at what we have in front of us so everyone can understand what their capacity needs to be as we move through the process. Do you know how powerful that is? So now once you get into a place where everybody understands what's in front, we understand what kind of capacity we need, we can make better decisions as leaders and as navigators of our own environment to actually do our work more succinctly and more effectively because we've slowed down enough to focus. That's pretty wild, right? But that's what happens. And so now we're not relying on that spreadsheet anymore. That's our baseline. Now we can operationalize the projects, knowing at what time they're going to function, or they're going to move, or we need to take an action. What is the scale? What is the sequence? What is the timing? And now we can build our system that we know works around that process. That's the first step. We recognize the opportunity. We would burn out if we didn't have a plan in place or if we didn't communicate what was coming. Right? I can make better decisions about when I take a vacation. I can make better decisions about when I'm going to stay out late. I'm going to make better decisions about, do I have capacity to take on this other project in my own personal world? What do I have capacity for, knowing what's in front of me? Very important. Very important, right? Where we want to try to get it all done, do it all, have it all right now. That is not always the best way to do it, right? Just because I'm clear and I know doesn't mean I have a system in place to actually tackle it and accomplish it. So I want us to think about that as leaders, regardless of what's on our desk, right? And I'll jump into my corporate hat as well. In my 20 plus years in corporate America, specifically working for major corporations, I know there's a project plan associated with the work that I do. I know I need to be visible and connected to certain levels of leadership as I'm moving through, let's just say, I'll talk about a little bit about my automotive design history. As we're moving through what we call program gates, there are things that need to happen as a car is going through the design process, all the way through to get to its production. But in order to become an actual automobile with a name, right, it has to go through what they call design gates. And those gates, there are certain things that have to be done at every single point and turn so that vehicle can get the proper approvals, the proper budget, proper design verifications, proper engineering verifications, proper, market and industry testing done. Like, all that has to happen. And if you skip a step, you totally derail the program. And so, in order to think that through in my role as a business, part of the business management team, I needed to be able to understand the importance of the steps, who had what task along the journey, and who I needed to collaborate with to get it done. And that becomes a part of the capacity. If I looked at just the weight of this, like, oh my goodness, we've got to get this vehicle to this date successfully, that's a lot of weight, right? That's a lot of pressure to think about. There's so many people involved in that process. But if I think about my role and what I need to do and what my peers needed to do to move through their sections of the process, then that creates a little bit more clarity. And then I can also breathe, knowing that if I do my portion and I deliver on time, then I'm impacting positively my peers as we move down this process, right? That's a very vague understanding of what the design process looks like, but those are the intervals, things you can't see, right? And so that's important. Most of the time, what takes away our capacity are the things we cannot see. Most of the time, what takes away our capacity are things we cannot see. And why would I say that? It's because we typically don't want to change the structures around us because we haven't taken the time to really assess them. So I'll leverage this quote that is a call out in the article. It says, burnout doesn't always come from confusion, right? You can have the plan in front of you. It also comes it also comes oftentimes after clarity. When leaders gain insight but don't change the structures around them, their responsibility increases. They know better, but they're still operating inside systems that require them to do everything, decide everything, and hold everything together. If the system is you, you're failing. If the system is you, you're failing. You're not protecting your job. You're not creating greater job security for you. You're not perfecting the outcomes. You're failing. And a lot of times we use that as a method of control, even if it's just what's on our desk. Sometimes somebody else can help you. And I want you to think about the fact that you need help. And I want you to be okay with understanding how to assess where you need help. But that comes from you having clarity, looking at the process, evaluating your system for getting things done, and then stepping back and saying, okay, let me take advantage of this opportunity to, one, leverage someone else's brilliance so that they can help me. I can learn from them. They can learn from me, right? And or let me just roll this off because this is the lower level task that I just like to do, right? That doesn't need to be done by me. Someone else can take it on. And guess what? They can do it better, faster, and more efficient than you. You'll forget about that task in no time because you allowed someone else to have access to it to increase their capacity. Did you know that delegating increases the capacity of others around you? Did you know that delegating then increases your capacity? Right. And so it's not about just rolling it off your desk. It's about empowering others to become better, greater, and really more valuable inside your organization. So getting clarity and making sure that you don't burn out in that process has a lot of benefits, guys. It has a lot of benefits. And so I really want us to look at the complexity of working smarter as we continue to evolve as great leaders. So I'm almost at my time, but I really wanted to just get a little bit of this out to you. I was challenging myself truly to really walk through this entire article, but it looks like I'm gonna have to come back for another lunch and learn and walk through it a little bit more with you. So I'm gonna invite you to read the article. The link is there for you in the comments. I want you to read the article, get familiar with it, get connected to the idea that there's a better way to do this. And don't try to digest it all in one bite, maybe or in one reading. Take some time and be committed to applying maybe one step into your world so that you can enhance and increase the quality of the work you do every day. As a smart CEO, this platform is designed for us to learn and grow no matter where you are and how you identify as a CEO. So whether you're running a company, whether you're running your household, whether you're running a major division within a corporation, maybe you're running a major Fortune 5, 200, 250, whatever your role, the task is for you to be a more efficient and a more effective leader in doing so. So I am Kyra Rénel. This is from an excerpt from The Smart CEO. I really want you to take a look at the article, get involved, get connected, and take ownership of your role as a leader in this space. I'm excited. I'll see you soon. Next time, have an amazing day.